That's what happened the other night. It made a weak party look weaker. You looked strong, and I was sitting there wondering, well, why is nobody else standing up with that brother? Why is nobody else walking out with that brother? In that moment, to me, it just shows you how cowardly the Democratic Party is.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So in this clip, we're going to watch Al Green, the representative that got censured and kicked out of the speech that Donald Trump was giving, go on the Breakfast Club and blame racism for and discrimination for him facing consequences for disrupting the speech. So let's not waste any time and get straight into this video.
You know, you caused some good trouble the other night when you stood up and spoke out at the, is it the State of the Union?
No, it was
a joint
session of Congress.
Joint session of Congress.
Yes,
when you stood up and spoke out at the joint session of Congress. I think what's getting lost is what you actually said.
Thank you.
And you said that you have no mandate on Medicare.
No mandate to cut Medicaid.
Medicaid.
No mandate to cut. Literally, friends, I had my coat, my cane, and I was about to make my exit because I really didn't want to sit through what I knew the president would do. Mm-hmm. So as I was about to make my exit, he made this statement about his mandate. And I said to him, you have no mandate to cut Medicaid. And by the way, I didn't come to say that. Mm-hmm. I did not. It was spontaneity. It was just something.
Spirit movie.
Yes. So I said it. And of course, the speaker admonished me. He said that I should take a seat. But at the moment, I had to make the point. So I said it again. The speaker admonished me again. And the speaker did his job. He said, well, you got to be removed. And so I was evicted. And by the way, the officers who evicted me were very kind. They didn't say anything to me that was out of order. They were very kind to me. But it didn't matter to me what the consequences were. And I've shared this with other people. John Lewis and I were friends. And we talked about this notion of peaceful protest. And a part of it is not just getting in the way, as he put it. You have to get in the way. You have to be disruptive. People are not going to like you, some. But when you do this, you have to also be prepared to suffer the consequences. Mm-hmm. So when I did it, I was prepared to suffer the consequences. And I'm prepared now. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to like the consequences. Mm-hmm. You can be prepared to suffer things that you don't agree with. I don't agree with what happened, but I was prepared to suffer because Medicaid means so much to so many people. 1 in every 5 persons with insurance in this country is covered by virtue of Medicaid. Mm-hmm. And if we lose Medicaid, we're going to lose lives. The president, by and through his agents in Congress, has issued a mandate, we passed legislation, to cut $880 billion from the committee that has jurisdiction over Medicaid. You cannot do that. You cannot do that without cutting into Medicaid. And if you do that, you're going to hurt a lot of people that I represent. So I'm standing for them because they can't stand for themselves, understanding that they need this health care.
I'm glad you explained that. But I also, you said something, you said that the speaker was doing his job. So if that's the case, why didn't Democratic speakers do their job and kick out Joe Wilson when he yelled out at Barack Obama, you lied? Why they didn't do their job and kick out Marjorie Taylor Greene or Boebert? Like, why don't they do their job?
This is why I came to the program, mm-hmm. because I would get a question like this. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate this question because it gets to the essence of where we are, but a good many of us don't realize it. There is still invidious discrimination. There is invidious discrimination in the House of Representatives. I'm a son of the segregated South. The rights that the Constitution recognized for me, my friends and neighbors denied. I had to sit in the back of the bus, the balcony of the movie, drink from a colored water fountain, and my relatives who committed some crimes were locked up in the bottom of the jail. I know what invidious discrimination looks like. The Klan burned a cross in my yard. I know what it smells like. I was in filthy waiting rooms, and I've been in places where I didn't want to be, and I know what it sounds like. I've been called all kinds of ugly names. So I know invidious discrimination. And when the speaker decided that I would be removed, and then there was this motion, this resolution to censure me, it became obvious to me that I was not being treated as others were.
Mm-hmm.
And candidly speaking, it is invidious discrimination, harmful discrimination. I don't agree with that, but I was willing to suffer that because I knew that I had to get that message to the president and put this issue before the public, because the public has not grasped what's going to happen if Medicaid is cut. This is not about black people. Most of the people, the plurality, they're Anglos. Black people are a smaller percentage of Medicaid, but this is about people who need health care. This president is a person who uses his incivility to take advantage of our civility. When I left, I went home and I saw the rest of the event on television, and I saw him point to the Democrats and say, these people are lunatics. He called the Democratic members of Congress lunatics. Mm-hmm. Now that is incivility. He will not be punished for that. He's not going to be sanctioned. He's not going to be reprimanded. He's not going to be censured. He does this with impunity. I believe that we have to meet incivility with incivility. I have to be prepared to suffer the consequences, but I'm prepared to meet his incivility that he uses to demean people. We have to use our incivility to uplift people. And I plan to do that.
I understand that, but why wouldn't the Democratic Speaker of the House censor those folks? Like, why wouldn't she call them out, or he called them out when Obama was in office? Why wouldn't Pelosi call them out when Biden was in office and do to them what they did to you when they disrupted the joint
right
session?
My belief is that what they've done to me exceeded what should be done. And that may be why, because they didn't want to exceed what should be done. That would be my guess. I candidly don't know, but I know that I have been treated differently. Mm-hmm. And I have accepted that it happened. I don't agree with it. And I think that if you treat everybody else as you should, and then when I show up, you decide to treat me differently, I then protest that, and I do that. But I would protest notwithstanding the way they've done it, simply because I think that at some point, even if nobody stands with you on some issues, they are so important that if nobody stands with you, it is better to stand alone than not stand at all.
I agree with you, but I also believe Democrats are cowards. And that's why they didn't call out Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's why they didn't call out Joe Wilson when he did it. And Republicans, that's what happened the other night. It made a weak party look weaker. You looked strong. And I was sitting there wondering, well, why is nobody else standing up with that brother? Why is nobody else walking out with that brother in that moment? To me, it just shows you how cowardly the Democratic Party is.
Man, the lack of just self-awareness and accountability, that comes from these people is just, it's very impressive from these Democrats. Because here's the thing, right? Because he blames racism and discrimination for the consequences that he's facing for being censured, right? For disrupting the speech. But what he also failed to realize is that, he'll admit it, that, 10 Democrats joined in to censure me as well. But when he's talking about Republicans censoring him, it's always racism, discrimination. Oh, it's because I'm black. But when it's the Democrats that also joined in to vote to censure this guy, he doesn't blame it on racism or discrimination. He actually just says, well, it's just their moral compass, right? If this is what they decided to do morally, then, this is just what they decided to do. He just gives them the benefit of the doubt, right? He doesn't attribute racism and discrimination to when Democrats try to hold him accountable. But when it's Republicans trying to hold him accountable, it's racism automatically.
You know, when you say you told people to vote for their conscience and then 10 Democrats voted to censure you, what does that say about their conscience? Mm-hmm.
Well, here again, this is why I'm on your program. I assure you that question would not be put to me as you just put it to me on most other places and most other venues. I think that it is something that they will have to deal with. I don't want to say to them, here's what your conscience should have dictated. What I want to do is be an example and say, here's what my conscience dictates. And if you believe that I'm a good example, then you can adjust. But if you think not, then I have to accept you as who you are. I let them deal with their conscience. Conscience is something that's within us, and it causes us to have moral imperatives. This was a moral imperative for me. If no one else has the same moral imperative, I let them wrestle with it. I would not feel good about myself had I not done what I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the same guy that blames racism and discrimination for anything that they get a pushback on, right? Anytime you disagree with the Democrat and you give any pushback, they attribute it to racism and discrimination. But what this guy admitted also on the same podcast is that he doesn't have a bachelor's degree. Now, nothing wrong with not having a bachelor's degree, but he also got into law school without getting a bachelor's degree, which is really, really difficult to do, right? You have to almost have privilege to get into law school without having a bachelor's degree, right? Because if a white congressperson was to admit that, what would they say? Oh, that's white privilege. You see that? This is why we need DEI. You see this? This is what you call a legacy admission or nepotism or whatever, right? They'll attribute it to all types of racial things. But when he went to law school without having a bachelor's degree, you know, he blames it on just whatever circumstance allowed him to get into. It's not automatically a privilege thing. Hilarious.
Now, they said you like HBCU so much you went to 3 of them.
Well, I went to
FAMU, Howard, and Tuskegee.
And I also went to Texas Southern.
And Texas Southern.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed undergraduate school. I really did. And by the way, for everybody's edification, I have no undergraduate degree. I was fortunate enough to get into law school. It was just a quirk of circumstance. And so I finished law school at Thurgood Marshall School of Law.
So yeah, anyway, I'm just sick and tired of Democrats coming on podcasts, going on the news, and blaming racism and discrimination every single time they are held accountable. Anytime you disagree with them, you give them any type of pushback, they automatically blame racism. And I'm just sick and tired of hearing that. I mean, it's outplayed. That oppression card is outplayed. Just go ahead and move on to something else, and maybe you'll gain some respect. But when you come out here and always blame racism and white supremacy and discrimination when you actually were in the wrong, it's not like you just were picked out and they just decided to censure you. No, you disrupted the speech. I mean, you should hold anybody accountable for the same thing. Y'all should have did the same thing to Republicans when they did that to Biden. I mean, you can hold everybody to the same standard, right? But when it's Democrats, it's always, oh, well, it's racism. And he's like, well, I came out there to protest for Medicare. Well, no, you didn't. You barely lasted 3 minutes. You came there to literally show out. You came there to disrupt and walk out, not to say, oh, you don't have a mandate on Medicare or to cut Social Security or whatever that he tried to, give reasoning for his actions. But anyway, I'm just tired of that. But let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about this video in the comment section. Hit the like button down below. And of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.